For the first video in this playlist, we'd like to review the characters, their stat cards, and how to use them. Jeff?
Yeah, let's go. First, we're going to get into our dice. We use polyhedrals, and in our game, the bigger die you roll, the better you are at the thing that you're trying to do. Okay? And so we also scale up and down dice levels during our game. So if I'm rolling a d6 to do the thing, and I get +2 die levels, I'm going to go from a d6 to a d8 to a d10. And now a d10 has a much better chance of succeeding. Likewise, if I'm rolling a d8 to do the thing and I get debuffed in some way, I'm going to go down 2 dice levels to a d4, from a d8 to a d6 to a d4. And the higher die you roll, the better you are. So it's good to roll those higher dice. This matters because in our game, we're always trying to meet or exceed some kind of a target number. We call those TNs. Most TNs are a 4 or a 5. So if I'm trying to get a 4 or 5 on a D10, I have a much higher chance of success than getting a 4 or 5 on a D4. The last thing about our dice is anytime that you roll the die and you get the top number on the die, they explode, you roll it again, and you add the results together. In this case, I would have gotten a 14, which, if I needed a 4, is a critical hit. So let's talk a little bit about criticals. In Freeblades, if you get 10 above the target number that you're trying to achieve, it's called a critical success. Each level of 10 is a critical success level. And so you can actually crit multiple times over the course of the game if your dice keeps spiking or exploding. You can get lots of criticals throughout the course of your game of Freeblades, which is really cool. Each thing that you're doing has a different critical effect, and we're not going to get into all those right now. As they come up in the game, which I'm sure they will, we'll talk about what the critical effects do. But for now, just know if you get 10 above your target number, it's a critical success, and that will do something for you in the game. All right, cool. Well, the next thing that we're going to talk about is our stat cards here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this top box, then I'm going to talk about this middle box, and then I'm going to talk about this bigger box over here. And there will be a chance for questions after each box. So, first box, this top area here. The first column is speed. This is how many inches your character can move. And there are 3 basic types of movement that a character can do in our game. You can maneuver, which is just moving your speed. You can run, which is moving up to twice your speed. And you can serpentine as much as you want, but you may not end in melee. And then the last one is a charge. A charge, you can move up to twice your speed, but it has to be a straight line, and you're allowed to end in melee. And in fact, you get a bonus to melee if you make contact. So charges are really a great way to enter combat. The next one here is MAR. This is your melee attack rating. That's the die that you're going to roll to hit somebody. The next one is melee weapon. If you hit somebody, then you're going to move to hurt somebody. And that's what you'll roll there is your melee weapon. And so melee attacks are a 2-step process. First, you have to hit. Then you have to wound or hurt. And so, again, we're always trying to meet or exceed some kind of a target number. So when we're rolling our melee weapon to do damage, that's not how much damage they take. That's do they take damage. Because you're going to need to meet or exceed a target number to be able to do that. And we'll see that in a moment. The next one on the card is ranged attack rating. If you have an asterisk there, that means you don't have a ranged attack. If you have a die there, that means that's the die you're going to roll to shoot somebody. The next one is ranged weapon. This is what you're going to roll to hurt somebody with a ranged shot. And the format here is very similar to the format in melee weapon. Melee weapon's format is the weapon's name, the die that they're going to roll to do damage, and any weapon special qualities it might possess. Ranged weapon, the format is the weapon's name, the die it rolls to do damage, any weapon special qualities it might have, and then its range bands. Up to the first number is short range, up to the second number is medium range, which will inflict a -1, and the third number is long range, which inflicts a -2 to hit. Beyond that, you're not shooting. The next column here is defense. This is what your opponent is going to need to roll with their melee attack or ranged attack to hit you. Okay, so, and then our next number is AV. That's your armor value. This is what your opponent is going to need to roll to hurt you. So, for example, if our Knight Defender here was going to attack themselves, I would roll a d10 to hit, and I got a 4, which we can see here. His defense is a 5, so it would miss. But let's say I got a 6. That's going to hit. Then I would roll my d8 plus 1 for damage. So I grab my d8, I roll it, and I tarch. Anytime you roll a natural 1 in our dice system, it's an automatic failure. And so in this case, my Knight Defender, even though he's a d8 plus 1, he would only get a 1 on this result. You wouldn't add the plus to it. And we see his armor value is a 6, so that doesn't do any damage. Had I gotten a 6, though, that would do 1 life point to me. And I see the next column here is life points. I have 2, so that deals 1 life point to me. And I'm not dropped or killed or dead or whatever. I'm just injured at this point. And so hopefully I can survive to fight another round. The last number here is discipline. The last column here is discipline. This is what you're going to roll for fear checks, leadership, morale in other games. Oh no, that thing's really scary. Am I afraid of it or run away from it? Oh no, I lost combat. Should I flee? The next box we're going to talk about here is your attributes. And so Freeblades is actually a really beautiful marriage of a skirmish game and an RPG. And so our attributes here are all of our RPG stats. You might know them as strength, dex, endurance, those kinds of things, or constitution in other games. And so there are 6 attributes in Freeblades. There are strength, agility, dexterity, endurance, spirit, and knowledge. You'll notice each of those start with a different letter. And so if you're called upon to make a strength test, you're going to look in this box. If you don't see something that you think looks like strength, he doesn't have a strength rating. If that's the case, he's just going to roll ABL, which all of our characters have ABL listed on their cards. This is their baseline ability, right? If they have something that deviates from that, either up or down, it'll be listed on their card. So we see our Knight Defender here. He has a strength rating of D10. That means that if he's called upon to make a strength test at any point in time, he's going to be able to roll a D10 for the strength test rather than a D8, which is his base ability. But if he was called upon to make an agility test, we see he does not have AGL or agility listed here. So he's just going to roll his ABL ability D8. It'll be very easy when you're actually playing the game to identify if you have that attribute or not, is the point. Okay, cool. Our last box here is what really sets our characters apart and make them unique. This is our attributes, our talents and skills. Talents and skills are all the things that set the characters apart from each other. We have a lot of those in the game. I'm not going to talk about all of them right now. I'm actually just going to talk about 2. All right. The first one we're going to talk about is parry. If you are hit with a melee attack and you have a parry rating, our Knight Defender here has parry 1, you can replace your defense with that with your melee attack rating, and you can do that however many times you have parry per turn. So our Knight Defender here has parry 1, so he can do that once per turn. When we fought ourselves earlier, I got a 6 to hit, so I could roll my melee attack rating, which is a D10 here, and if I get a 7, the attack will become a miss. I got a 5, so the attack still hits. Note that with parry, you have to beat your opponent to block the attack, which brings me to kind of our opposed tests. In Freeblades, you always are trying to meet or exceed those target numbers I talked about. The only time that you need to beat the number is if you are trying to stop your opponent from doing something. You have to roll higher than them. So in this case, my opponent rolled a 6 to hit me. I needed to get a 7 to stop him from hitting me with my parry attempt here. Okay, so that's parry. You can exchange your defense for your melee attack rating roll X number of times per turn. In this case, 1. There are other characters who have more, so that's cool. The other talent I'm going to talk about is Die Hard. If you're about to lose a life point, you can make an endurance test, which brings us to our attributes. If you pass, and it's a target number 7. If you pass, you avoid that life point loss. You can attempt to avoid X life points per turn. So if this guy had Die Hard 1, I would see his ability, he doesn't have endurance listed, so his ability would be what I roll, which is a D8. So I'll roll my D8, I'm about to lose that life point, and I got a 5 again. So that's not a 7, I need a 7 or higher for Die Hard, and so the attack the attack goes through, I lose a life point. Okay?
I hope you've learned a lot. I definitely have. Thank you, and we will complete this video of characters and their stats. The next video on this lineup will be the event phase and magic phase.
See you there.